Aloha, welcome to Faith and Family First. My name is Marcus Oshiro, and joining me is my co-host, Eva Andrade. Eva, good afternoon.
Marcus, we are going to talk about something that you and I have spent way too much time researching this last.
You want to bet?
Last time I bet, I looked stupid. Yeah, so we are here again talking about gambling. Why? Because the bill HB 1308 on sports betting, it's still moving, and there are resolutions moving that would create studies.
So that's House Bill 1308. It's still alive.
SD1. So now it has a Senate draft.
Senate draft, which means the senators had a hearing and they made some amendments to the bill.
Right. And by the time people are watching this, it will have been heard in the Senate Ways and Means Committee. We're kind of anticipating that it will pass the Senate Ways and Means Committee. So what may be happening as people are listening and watching right now is it may be on the full Senate floor for vote.
Probably by, sometime next week, full vote. And it's a House bill. It'll go back to the originating chamber, which is the House.
Right. And so now this is what's interesting. And so you can help our listeners understand. So what happened is the Senate has made changes. But they were, if the changes remain clean, then the House could just accept the Senate changes and it could go right to the governor.
That is correct. And
but what does that mean? People may not know what a clean bill is.
Yeah, normally when we talk about a clean bill, we mean that a bill that's ready to go up to the governor. It's been reviewed by the legal counsel of the respective chambers, and it has an effective date of upon approval, or usually fiscal year or calendar year. So in this one here, it might be effective July 1, 2025, or effective upon approval. That's a clean bill. And if the House agrees to the changes made by the Senate to the House bill, it goes straight to the governor.
Now, we're going to talk about the governor in a second. So people need to stay tuned. We're going to talk about what happens if it goes to the governor. Yes, we'll talk about that. But let's okay, so we're back to the bill right now, the changes that were made in the Senate. Now, what was interesting is the bill in the House started with this, it was going to be overseen by DBET. And then the House made the change that from DBET, they decided it was going to be DCCA.
You mean the Department of Business, Economic Development, and Tourism? I know it's a mouthful.
Yes, it is.
But Department of Business, Economic Development, and Tourism.
Yeah, so that's where it started.
DBET.
Yep, DBET. So thank you, Marcus. I'm so used to acronyms.
Yeah.
And then, so the House changed it so that it would be the Department of Consumer. What is DCCA?
Department of Commerce and Consumer Affairs.
Consumer Affairs. They changed it to DCCA. DCCA came out very strongly in opposition to the bill. Well, actually, they submitted comments, but if you listen to the comments, they were very concerned.
Yeah, I got to give credit to Director Ando. She was brutally frank and honest and gave her true assessment of the measure. Number one, DCCA would be an inappropriate agency to promulgate the regulations of it. And then she also suggested that it doesn't make sense as far as a revenue-raising measure and concerns therein. And also, it costs like $2.5 million just to ramp up the regulations if they wanted to get this thing going.
Yeah, so we just have to help people understand from the bare minimum. So I don't care whether somebody listening supports gambling or not. They need to understand that Hawaii has no form of legalized gambling.
Yes.
None. Zero.
Yeah.
Which means that we have zero foundation to build something like a sports betting commission and all of that.
Yeah. There's no Hotel California in Hawaii.
It would be, it would be hotel. What was a good hotel back in the day?
Palm trees.
Yeah, so we have no foundation to build gambling here. So when people are throwing around these terms like, oh, we could just have a gambling commission or we can have DCCA do it, it is so irresponsible of our legislators to just try and throw this out for the potential revenue.
Yeah, Hawaii is a special place. That's what I've heard repeatedly over and over and over again. We're a special place. We're a special people, a special culture. We're a special, unique, global history of Hawaiians in Hawaii. And I think we need to remember that and never forget that we are a special place, a special culture in the globe, in Hawaii.
Yeah, I mean, if you're on the mainland and you don't like gambling in this one area, you can drive to that area to get away from it.
Yeah.
If gambling comes to Hawaii, there is no getting away from it.
And I think the danger of this bill is it's looking at something that's maybe not bricks and mortar right now, not like a convention center, not like a building, not like a hotel, casino type, but it's going to be electronic, it's going to be online, it's going to be done on your laptop, it's going to be done on your iPad, and it's going to be done on your cell phone, your iPhone. And that's scary.
It really, really is. And it's going to change. This is what we say in our testimony. So anybody can look up our testimony. I make it very clear. Sports is very precious to people here in Hawaii. I mean, people will totally get into UH volleyball, right? They'll get into things like high school football or whatever. It's very, people in Hawaii put their kids in sports the minute they start walking. I mean, this sports is very important. What happens when we move from the enjoyment of the game to the betting that's taking place? There's bullying that takes place with this, forcing athletes to throw a game because of somebody's big bets. You have people that instead of watching the game now, they're going to be watching their phone. Because what happens is, my understanding is that all of the advertising that comes from places like DraftKings and all that, there's no restrictions on them. So you can get advertisements over and over and over again on your phone.
Well, yeah. And they're using the algorithms of the user, of the possessor of the cell phone to send these messages 24/7. Unlike a casino, you need to get into your car, put on the clothes, go down to the casino and check in and do your game and come home. This is with you 24/7.
So you know what? If we're going to start doing this, let's start betting on the Kamehameha Song Fest. If it's okay to start betting on things, then let's bet on the Kamehameha Song Fest. That's a big, important thing. You could make money on which class, which person.
When would Leonard sell out of malasadas on Fat Tuesday?
Oh, that's all. And by how much?
Yeah.
Or what time of
and
day?
And what time of day? Or how many shave ice, strawberry with vanilla ice cream Masamoto's going to sell Saturday between 9 a.m. and 1 p.m.
And Marcus, in your neck of the woods, why don't we start talking about chicken fights?
Oh, yeah.
Why don't we start talking about...
Don't get me started.
We got to start talking about chicken fights. What about the Merry Monarch?
Oh, yeah.
How about if we start betting on Merry Monarch? No. So to me, it's like, you all are talking about that this is just a fun thing. So why are we limiting it then to just sports betting? Why don't we just go the gamut?
No, that's what's going to. If it's not done on the machines itself, it's going to be done in the underground economy, in the underground currently illegal betting that's going to take place. This bill, if it was so-called legalizing gambling, is not going to get rid of the black market. It's going to accentuate the black market, help the black markets. They're going to have a different, wagering system there. They're going to be able to, make it more profitable for the players than the house. I mean, don't get me started on that.
And why, you've got all of these mainland companies.
Oh, yeah. Read them off.
And I know.
Who are the mainland companies? I think there's like 4 multinational corporations. I think one of them are, I don't know, was it DraftKings or whatever?
You've got DraftKings, you've got FanDuel Group, you've got BetMGM, you've got FBG Enterprises, Fanatics, Sports Betting Alliance. Now, Boyd Gaming Group actually submitted testimony in opposition because they want casino.
Oh, definitely.
Right.
Yeah, they don't want people to, spend their time and money on those machines.
But let's talk about this. So you've got these lobbying firms like Orrick, Harrington, that is based in D.C., hiring lobbyists here, paying over $20,000 just for the month of January, February in their lobbying reports. Or how about you've got like the Integral Group, which is in Denver, Colorado, and they're paying like $8,000 to $10,000 for their people that they're hiring. DraftKings is based in Massachusetts, and they're hiring. So we've got. Let's call a spade a spade. We're talking about gambling. Let's call a spade a spade. You've got mainland people that are using mainland money to influence Hawaii politics. And one of the things I've loved about being in Hawaii is that we do things differently here. We have a culture, we have a belief system that is going to be forever destroyed if we let these big businesses come in and change the culture here.
Yeah. You know, I'm glad you pointed it out because that's at the State Ethics Commission.
Yes, I think, anybody can get this.
I think there's a filing deadline that arose on or about March 31st, 2025, where all the lobbyists have to file with the State Ethics Commission the current expenditures or income over the last several months of lobbying. So you can see for yourself where these people are coming from and the money they're making. And that's a lot of money they're getting paid.
For just the first reporting period. They got to report. The next one is going to be due May 1st for the March and April lobbying. Yeah. And that's going to be, March is going to be the heaviest. So these guys, we're talking right now. And now this is, I'm underreporting because there are other people and other things that might be in here. But just as a base, I went in and there was $44,000, Marcus, that was paid to various lobbyists in just January and February to pass gambling in Hawaii. You tell me that people are not, you cannot make the connection that wherever gambling is legalized, you're going to have these companies that it's questionable because here's the bottom line. I don't care how much money these companies make, Marcus. I don't care if they make $10 or they make $5 billion. They're making it off of gamblers, which means they're making it off. They're going to be making money off of the people here in Hawaii.
And they're going to make it off the weakest among us, the most addictive of us. That's all the studies. That's all. That's what it shows. This model of 95 cents on a dollar going back to the winners is fine. But they keep that 5 to 7% of monies based upon the addicted gamblers that are reliable gamblers that are going to go bankrupt, going to go destroy their homes, going to beat up on their spouses, going to cheat on their kids. All the negative effects, we're going to have to bear the expense of that and create a remedy for that. So they're talking right now, this bill, $10 to $15 million. $10 to $15 million is less than 1/10 of 1% of a $10 billion budget. Think about that. Less than 1/10 of 1% of a $10 billion budget.
And what that number doesn't include, so that's just revenue that they would take in. They're going to have to take some of that revenue, and it's written into the bills and the resolutions, so we know that they're thinking about it. They've got to put it back into addiction because they are admitting that there's going to be a need to pay for people. Yeah,
that's why this boggles my mind that you would even contemplate a business model, a new industry, a new vice that's going to really prey upon the weakest among us, going to prey upon those who are predisposed to become addicts and exploit that fact.
Right.
And exploit that individual and his or her family for this small amount of money, relatively speaking. And I can't understand it. That boggles my mind.
It really does. And there are strange bedfellows, Marcus, on this issue because, and this is, I tell people all the time, do not attack people, whether it's a legislator or people that are testifying against you on other issues, because you never know when they're going to be on your side on these issues. And this, I will say that on this issue, I've got a lot of support from people that I wouldn't normally have. And I just want to call out some of the great groups that submitted fantastic testimony. The Hawaii State Commission on Status of Women, March 31st testimony in opposition. And they say that they don't want it because they understand that it's going to create more addiction, which is a problem. And they're saying the only winners, and I'm quoting from their testimony, the only winners in gambling are billion-dollar corporations, mainland billion-dollar corporations, people, mainland money, while families, nonprofits, and government agencies bear the social and economic consequences of the broke and broken. Well done. We've got the Attorney General who submitted testimony in opposition. And again, they're opposing the bill because, and I'm quoting, it may lead to the well-studied public health and safety issues that come with legalized gambling. So the Attorney General, and they go on in their testimony to quote, intimate partner violence increase. They talk about bankruptcies, and they talk about what happens in families when the families. So well done, Attorney General. You've got the let's see who else. Oh, there's many. Okay, I want to, but well done to these groups coming out. I know that IHS has been very concerned about what's going to happen about gambling. Yeah. The Catholic Church has always been strongly concerned about the negative.
Yeah, any of these organizations, not-for-profits, non-government groups that spend any time dealing with the weakest among us, those who are affected by any of the vices, just cringe when they think about another vice, gambling, being added to alcohol and drugs. And the DSM-5 lists gambling alongside heroin, cocaine, and opiates. So if we want to look at the next opiate addiction for the next generation, it's going to be gambling, folks. With 39 states out there that's allowing this, that's the next opiate epidemic that's going to hit our country.
And of course, you've got groups like DraftKings and all these guys saying, hey, it's all good because they're rolling in the billions and billions and billions of dollars that they're making off of people. And you know, it's really, to me, I think what makes me more upset is when you have people that support it, that actually, like for instance, DBET. In DBET's testimony, now they didn't support the bill; they submitted comments, but they say in here that they, let's see, they say that most of the states with online sports wagering, and this is direct from their testimony, most of the states with online sports wagering operations on the continent of the U.S. have independent agencies due to legal and law enforcement requirements and expertise. DBET is not a regulatory agency, however. If it is determined that the department is the regulatory, so basically we can't really do this. This is not how we function. But hey, throw the ball to us, and we will run the ball down the field.
Well, yeah, because that's their job. You know, whatever legislature in its wisdom determines the right proper course, they got to follow. That's just the law. Okay. But you should also touch upon the HCRs, the 2 resolutions that are coming up, because those are just as insidious as this House bill.
They are, and it's a great tie-in because the last testimony I wanted to bring up was the iron workers are in strong support. And they acknowledge in their testimony, Marcus, they say, we acknowledge the concerns regarding the potential impact of sports wagering on Hawaii's cultural fabric. However, we contend our population drop of 15,000 residents a year is already precipitating a profound cultural shift. So, and then they end their testimony with, keep local families' homes. I will tell you, with due respect, iron workers, this is not going to keep people's homes. People are going to be losing their homes because of bankruptcy. So I think you need to rethink your support of this. Now, okay, so going back to your point about the resolutions, there are resolutions moving that basically want to do a study, but I'm horrified that they've already built the studies so lopsided that all they're going to do is say that we need to do this.
Yeah, I think the way it's drafted, what are the numbers of the resolutions? Senate Concurrent Resolution number 121, requesting the Department of Business, Economic Development, and Tourism to establish a tourism and gaming working group. So it's a tourism and gaming working group that they want to set up, and it's going to basically come out a recommendation on how to go about creating this legal and regulatory scheme for this. There's also House Concurrent Resolution 192, House Draft 1, to establish a Native Hawaiian Economic Development Working Group. Again, this is focusing upon the needs and the wants and desires of Native Hawaiians. But for the Native Hawaiians that I am familiar with and some of the issues, this is another terrible idea. And again, this is another one, Senate Bill 891. and that's a gaming working group within the Department of Business, Economic Development, and Tourism. All of these measures are geared towards the eventuality of joining the other 38 states in the nation with some kind of gambling industry. And again, forgetting Hawaii is very unique. And recently I heard, I think it was a news report, KITV or KHON, regarding a survey that was done in 2022. Well, I think the truth of the matter is that survey was actually paid for by the
proponents.
The proponents of gambling, the big four that you talk about right here, the big
right.
four, they paid for it back in 2022.
And I'd like to see how the question was worded.
Well, yeah,
because the questions make a big difference.
The questions, the demographics, the time of call, the response, was it a push pull? I mean, they hired a local group, but give me the details of the.
Yeah, and I don't want anybody coming after me. Normally, I forget offhand the name of the polling company, but it is a polling company that's well respected in Hawaii. So it's not like I'm saying that the polling company did anything wrong. But normally when you conduct a study, like if Hawaii Family Forum did a study, obviously we would be looking for a particular outcome of the study we're doing.
That's right. You pay for what you get.
Right. So it would be good. But, Marcus, and I want to get back to the governor and the process of the bill. But before we do that, I want you to know that in the very last committee report that was done by the Committee on Economic Development and Tourism and Commerce and Consumer Protection. So this was in the Senate. They list, Marcus, in their committee report, they're acknowledging the concerns about things like problem gambling and addicting. So they're saying we further are noting that these concerns raised. But then they say that they're passing the bill so that the discussion can continue and that future committees will address these issues.
Yeah, it's a terrible policy declaration when you're saying that we already know, we already believe, we've already made the findings that there are going to be negative consequences and effects upon families and kids and younger people. We know that the majority of the young adult males are going to be targeted by the big four gambling operations, multinationals. We know that already. We know that they're going to suffer consequences, both short-term and long-term on this program. And to go forward with this is absurd. It really is.
So when people are listening and watching this right now, a couple of things could have happened. We're not mind readers. We can't see into the future. So either the Senate Ways and Means will have passed the bill, which means that right now, at this time, it's being debated on the full Senate floor. They will, we're assuming just by doing a very rough kind of count that it's probably going to pass Ways and Means, and it will probably pass the Senate. It will go back to the House. The House will then make the decision on whether the bill is going to be passed as is, agreeing to the Senate changes, which means it would go right to the governor. So I want you to talk about the governor. But they could also disagree to the Senate changes. And if that happens, it would go to conference committee. As you mentioned in the last show, you talked about the conference committee for the budget. Same thing would happen on this bill. You'd have people on the conference committee that normally are the chairs, right, of the committees that it was heard in, and people that have voted yes on the bill.
Yes.
Although the House did this year change their House rules, and they did say you could vote no and be appointed. So the bill could die in conference committee because they can't come to an agreement, or they could come up with a conference draft. But again, if that happens, they would vote both sides, and then again, it would go to the governor. So let's talk about the governor. Let's talk about Governor Green. Governor Green and I go back a long way.
I heard the governor, and this is April Fool's Day, right? April 1, 2025. April Fool's Day today, right? But
the day of recording, yes.
The day of recording is April Fool's Day. I thought it was a joke, but basically the governor in an interview with some reporters said that he's neutral on this gambling idea. He also suggested that it might become part and parcel of the Aloha Tower redevelopment project, the $400 million or $800 million project that has to make the decisions by June of 2025 on what they're going to be building out there. And the governor said he's neutral on it. That's scary.
It's very scary. But it goes back to the point you made last week when we were talking about the budget. They've got to fill in pukas. So they're getting creative on where this money could come. And the easy 15 million.
Yeah, but at what expense? You know what I mean? I think it's in the Bible somewhere. It says, what does it gain a man if he gains the entire world but loses his soul? I don't know the exact verse in mind.
You're pretty close.
But I think there's a saying like that in the Bible, right? And I think that the point there was that all the money in the world.
It's what is your focus?
Yeah.
What is your God?
What is it? Yeah. What is it? What's the value of a human life, right?
What people that are addicted. So I want to make sure that people know I'm talking about the ones that cannot pull away, right? Gambling becomes their God. They are every day addicted to that adrenaline rush of losing and gaining. And today I went down I was teasing you that because you were the one that sent me that link about the governor's interview or his statements on it, and I was horrified by that because I went down the rabbit hole of watching people's testimonies, Marcus. There are young men, and that's who's being affected most by sports betting is young men.
That's what it is.
Off the charts. They're crying online because they like to film themselves gambling, right? This is a thing. Oh, I'm streaming. Oh my God. And all of a sudden they're weeping because they've lost everything.
Once you normalize this with the younger people, it becomes approved. It becomes sanctioned. It becomes expectation of them whenever they go to any kind of sporting events with their friend. They're gonna wager. That's part of what's expected because their parents are doing it. Uncles and aunties are doing it. That's the Pandora box we're talking about here.
Yeah.
Once you open it up, you can't.
Yep.
You can't go back.
Make sure you go to hawaiifamilyforum.org to find out where this bill is and how you can plug in to make a difference. And we will make sure that you stay plugged in. Should the bill pass, then we're going to have a different call to action. But it's really important that we hear from people. First of all, comment below. Comment below on how you feel about sports betting, regardless of what state you are. Make sure you like this video, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you know every time we upload a new video. And stay tuned because Marcus and I, for as long as you partner with us, so we're looking for partners that are willing to partner with us to make this show continue because we want to provide every bit of support we can so that you know what's going on, how do you do it in the right way and in the right spirit. So we will see all of you next week. Mahalo, everybody.